Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. Hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here with yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. You know, we love to sit down with creators, authors, forerunners that bring to us beautiful wonder, asking us to think beyond. And today we are going to be sitting down with Marcella Kroll. And Marcella Kroll's Oracle deck. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so great. Let me tell you a little bit about Marcella Kroll. With over 25 years of experience as a psychic medium, occult practitioner, and spiritual counselor, her work is rooted in ethical engagement with the unseen. Love that. Cultural memory and reclamation of intuition and intuitive knowledge. I also want to add very much a specialist on liminal space. And I got that because she published a book in 2025, Healing the Liminal. You guys check it out. It's amazing. I just kind of saw it and I'm like, whoa, listen to it. Great, great, great. She is widely recognized for making esoteric traditions accessible, inclusive, and relevant to the modern life. Without further ado, please welcome Marcella Kroll. Welcome to the show, my dear.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. I've been looking forward to this because, well, one, I got your deck. Ginny's got your deck.
Oh,
Listeners get the deck. I
Yes, so today we have Marcella Kroll with the Initiate's Oracle, which came out from Wiser. Adam Smith is the illustrator, and it's absolutely beautiful. For those of you that can't see it, it's very colorful, very rich in symbology. It's become an instant favorite for me. I've had it for a little while. I got it early, and I think that it gives a very deep reading.
thank you
one
so much.
100%. I think the first thing that drew me in was just the scarab beetle
Mm.
on the cover. And then you open it up, and you know how you can have that gold edges and the beautiful pictures? This has it all. 40 cards, along with a beautiful little insightful book that of course has a crow raven on it, which I love, which I love. So, in looking at this, it is deeply into Egyptology, Hermetics. You have all of you have the tree of life, the beauty of it all. And I heard that you went to Egypt and that's where you found inspiration. Can we just jump back to where this was inspired and
Sure.
your trip to Egypt and how this kind of started coming up in you?
Oh, absolutely. In December of 2022, I took a trip with 22 Teachings, which is a Hermetic magic school in Los Angeles that Naha Armady runs. And I am faculty there. So I used to teach out of the school occasionally or online or in person when they had um, the location, the in-person location. And they organized a trip to do initiations of the Sphinx rituals in the different temples. Nahad had been previously and, you know, really created this experience for students and faculty to really embed themselves in the mysteries and in these sacred locations. So we did ritual in many temples as well as we sailed on the Nile for 4 days. I got to teach on the Nile twice, which was pretty amazing. I offered timeline jumping meditations for folks. It was quite powerful. Uh, but Adam Smith, who is the illustrator, is someone that goes to the school. I had not met him prior. We met on that trip. And, you know, he's an artist, a tattooer, and also just we got along right away and we were paired up quite a bit. We were paired up like to there was 26 of us, I believe, total. Like there was a lot of us, but we were paired up quite a bit, but we kind of jokingly talked like, oh, we should try and make something. And Adam at the time, Adam just knew me from there. He didn't know my prior experience or things like that. So we kind of joke about it now. He's like, if I knew you were already doing stuff, I don't know. I would have been too shy to ask, we should work on something. But it felt right. And there's so much that you're taking in while you're there that you don't even process it. Obviously, you don't process it all in the moment, right? You're just kind of every sense is checking in, tapping in. And even, I didn't dream, I dreamt the first night I was there. I didn't dream the whole time I was there, which is really rare for me. But I think it's because it was like I was dreaming the whole time I was awake. Yeah, it was just this and being in and out of liminal space and consciousness. And we were traveling we get up at 2 in the morning, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to travel to the next location. And fortunately, we had a lot of alone time in some of these places. So you're really just absorbing as much as you can, um, emotionally, physically, energetically. It's quite a lot to take in. So I knew that there was going to be a lot of things that came out of this trip as an artist, and an author, like expression wise. And I feel like I'm still unpacking things from that trip. And the deck was just one of them. It was like one of the things that wanted to be expressed in a way to extend out to others, so they can kind of touch that energy in their own way and reach them at a bigger capacity. Because some people would be like, oh, you should do some podcasts talking about it. And I'm like, I can't even, I couldn't even put into words a lot of what was experienced. I still have trouble, explaining certain feelings or moments, right? Or trying to replay them back. It's hard to sometimes formulate even words around that.
I love that. And yet you brought it to us pictorially,
Mhm.
like you brought it to us through pictures, and it worked. However you did it, it worked because, most people don't know, but when I was really entering more of the mysticism and occult exploration, my first touchstone was Egypt and the Egyptian people coming in. Nut was there, Sekhmet, Isis, Anubis, all of them. To the degree I had a lot of very, very deep, really, really deep understanding of maybe even origin stories and the scarab and the scarab, which to me is transformational. Like the scarab, also known as the dung beetle, is known to push the dung and make it completely circular in the direction of the sun. And
Mhm.
so then it becomes this sun, it becomes resurrection and rebirth, which is something that I really needed and still do. And now I'm blurring. Hold on, people. See, when spirit comes in, I
Yeah.
go into liminal space and my computer picks it up. But the beauty is that what I'm seeing with this deck is it's calling us to unfold like a lotus continuously,
Mhm.
continuously, think and rebirth. And I'm just beyond the moon about this. And I love that we're bringing this podcast out into the world on August 8th,
Mhm.
888 Lionsgate. Some people say the alignment with Sirius is huge to me. And could you speak a little bit about, like, am I picking that up right? There is a lot of just resurrection. There's a lot of rebirth energy, like out with the old, in with the new, be present.
Hmm. Well, I first want to say I love that you brought up Newt like first and foremost because I have the Book of Doors here, which I love that deck because I think it's one of the most like well thought out. It's if you've ever wanted to connect into ancient Kemet and the Neteru, which is the Egyptian pantheon, I always say get the Book of Doors because it's every deity. And but I always pull one in the morning to see who I'm working with, and I pulled Newt. So that's why I said I love that you said that. Um,
Mhm.
showing this card of her. And the there's so much transformation that's being asked of us, and it's also a full circle moment, right? For me in this way of when I was little, I was very obsessed with ancient Egypt and no one could tell me why. I would, my favorite animal was a camel. I grew up in Rhode Island in New England. Like it was not common for people to be like into camels. And like I would always want to make I take shoe boxes and put dirt, be like and steal like my mom's Christmas ornaments, like to make the desert, like and to play with. And it's always like through lots of ancestor work and coming full circle and doing all this lineage tracing and being like, not knowing my biological father's family for years and years and years. It is through this journey um, that one of the layers I found out. I'll get to what you were mentioning, but it was like this full circle moment. It felt really important to share where I found through my mother's side, 7 generations back, there's Coptic and Amazigh, like so from Egypt. And I was like, wow, okay, so like there is a connection there, there is a thread. And sometimes we connect much further back than just this immediate, and then following the migration line of how they ended up in Italy. Like, how did they end up here? And then finding that in that region, there was a cult of Isis and the witches of Benevento, because they were grandmother's family was 45 minutes from Benevento. And being like, okay, so there are all these through lines that reach out to us, particularly when we are doing this like deep ancestral work that maybe go far further back than we even imagined. Um, and I think that in this time of where people have been going through transformation for a while, right? Like we see arcs of it throughout, especially in the last, 100 years. There's been many transformations, but particularly this sped up quality of it, right? Some people talk about, oh, 2012. Some people, talk about COVID. Some people talk about these different points in time. And I do think we are in another acceleration period where, you know, it's interesting to me because I feel like I've been kind of yelling about this since prior to 2012. People thought I was nuts, you know. And to now see like, and then there are people that are kind of not just like waking up but really redefining how they're showing up for this next iteration of the world, right? Because they're dropping these things that did not, they're like, wait, that makes no sense. Like, what is my role in this next iteration of the world? How do we hold space? How do we do this? And I think that we're just experiencing, in that shedding process and the rebirth of not just who we are as the individual, but who are we like in the web of the world. So I know it's kind of a long-winded answer. I just felt like really, like it felt really important to share about the whole, connection and then the closing of the loop, finding out that like I have those relatives from 7 generations back and then closing the loop at this point and going, okay, like, how do we bring some of that forward into now? Some of that wisdom that whether it was lost, suppressed, stolen, erased, or just compartmentalized. And even like with this deck, because some people are like, well, it's not just Egypt, there's other things in there, right? Because there's many points of initiation
Mm.
that we go through.
Love that.
And the point of the deck isn't just to kind of go, oh, we're just going to use it to just like divine kind of mundane things. We can, but ultimately it's about coming back to ritual and these symbols and things that spark parts of us to, really be embodied here at this time. So I really like the aspect of the deck to like calling to life initiations, the things that get us, um, that we go through, and inspiring ritual by using the deck, not just by like answering one question. Like there's,
I love that. Yeah, I love that because you wove it back to the ancestors and everything. And then you also spoke about something that I haven't heard articulated in such a way, and my body agrees, this accelerant. We are accelerating. And for me, the length of time that I have been practicing and studying mysticism and spirituality, I still feel like an initiate. I still hold the position of today is a new day, today I am born. And this deck supports it so well. And I love it because also in the book, you do talk about how to work with the deck. And it's basically that you start with intention, right? You start with an intention, and then you go ahead and pick a card, and then you contemplate and you encourage people to allow the imagery to
Mhm,
kind of let that messaging come forth,
mhm,
journal about it, and then, of course, handy dandy guide, which I absolutely love. Then journal about that, and then you actually say, now integrate it,
yeah.
which I think is so like it's so obvious, but it's the step that I sometimes forget. It's like, oh, thank you, Spirit. I feel better. And then it's like, wait, how do you work with that energy in your life? So it really, I love that you bring it back to that ritual because that's exactly what it is. And my goodness, I love it. So, Jenny, what questions do you have?
Yeah, so I've been working with the deck, and a couple of things I want to say is I have quite a few Oracle and Tarot, but this is one of the few I like that I know of that doesn't give spreads. And so
Mhm.
I definitely want to talk about that. But before we get to that, I did pull a card for our interview,
Oh,
and I got Transcend.
Nice.
And so far, I feel like we're already transcending some time and lineage and space and ancestry. So, but what I want people to understand about this in general about cards is they are a way for you, like a portal. Like each card is a portal for you to enter and for you to learn from without a book. Like I love that you're encouraging people to do that first. I always tell people that too, and it's very easy for it to be, oh, well, what does it mean? But the
Mhm.
way you actually like learn and integrate is by like entering the imagery. So I thought that was like a perfect card for us. But I would like to talk about that a little bit about
Mhm.
how you envision people using the deck.
Mhm. Um, Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really important to like while the interpretations are really, helpful and useful, I've always taught that you should find a way to integrate your own meaning because things the way we tune into things, right? Psychically, energetically, even artistically, like we have our own lens for a reason. And I think it's important to kind of give yourself permission to not feel regimented by like I have such a thing with like I'm like tell me what to do but don't tell me what to do, like vibe like with things I kind of like I'm like you know let's let's really like open up our own creative and intuitive centers here and work that muscle, not just like picking up a piece of paper and reading the thing and then never remembering or not forming or bonding with the tools that we're using. So, a big part of that too was like, I think a big thing that's empowering when you are like tapping in and connecting to your own intuition and learning to read or divine is developing your own systems. It's like people who play, I would tell this to my students. I taught tarot for teens for 14 years with the LA Public Library. And one of my favorite things about that was like kind of explaining them like, okay, you pick up a guitar and you like take a lesson and that's fine, but like you also can pick it up and you start to find your own rhythm and your own style and your own way and you just get in that zone and you get in that flow. And it's the same thing with like cartomancy and divination. I think you develop a better, obviously, get teachers, get mentors, but then develop your own way. Find your own rhythm with it. And you'll develop a more of a personal relationship with the tools that you're using, right? I'm not anti learning from other people. I love learning from other people. I'm always learning. But I think a big part of finding like and building your own confidence like as a reader or trusting, because that's the thing too, is like building your self-trust back, is developing your own connection with these tools. So, and diving into the imagery and seeing where it pulls you first, right? Isn't that a big part of reading?
Yes.
Noticing patterns and conditions, or, oh, look at the similarities, look at what's different. Like, that's all part of the message. And if you're just looking to the book, you're not like just zooming out and noticing what you're seeing. So,
I absolutely love that. And I love that you do that because I think that, in this, like what we were just talking about, in this accelerated time, we need to keep our internal compass intact. We need to keep self-knowledge intact, and we need to trust ourselves and our body and our own intuition and build a relationship with that. Because I think that a lot of times, this world or society tells you this is the way to do it. And then all of a sudden we become sheeple. And this way it's like, no, there's a lot of beauty in saying, yes, and this is what I'm sensing, and building that own empowerment
mhm.
within. So, yeah, I love that.
I mean, I feel like fortunate, like maybe it's because I didn't have many. I mean, in some ways, it is like a problem not having like a lot of supervision, but also having to fend for yourself a lot. You had to be your own parent.
Yeah.
And for me, I like even down to my first tarot deck, like I got was a gift from my adopted dad's mother, and there was no booklet, there was no one to teach me, and it was just finding my way through that even was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this, find my own way of connecting and communicating and but also um there's some so maybe I've been in some ways because I've always been connected to art too. Like I don't know, it's one of those things that in my mind I'm like, you can't take that away from me. And that's one of the things I like to impart when I'm making either decks or books is like find your own way through it. Yes, get support, yes, get help, but really hear your own voice, hear your own direction, heed that, trust that, and yes, I'm blanking, but like this is, yeah, it's like it's hard to start getting into all these liminal spaces, right, with this work. And it's funny,
100.
I just like pulled it like the deck open and got
There
went
it
to
is.
That's the
transcend.
card.
There. I'm trying, guys. Oh, is this it? No, wait. Oh, this is another beautiful one. No, actually, that is it, isn't it?
Yeah, transcend.
Yeah, you had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just playing around, but yeah, liminal spaces, guys, liminal spaces.
I'm like, who are we on the card today?
I
Right?
know.
Who are
I
you
know. It's
guys?
transcend, transcend. So then basically, like in practice, you
Mhm,
can be new, you
mhm,
can be an expert, you can all of it. and sit down with this oracle deck and actually kind of learn from it. So, just
Mhm.
keying off what Jenny said is then what does that look like in like action? That
Mm.
you would just like, what does that look like in action? How to work with your deck? Like, would you say light a candle, sit quiet, pull? Like, what does that look like?
So it looks like a couple of things. I mean, and I'll just tell you like ways that I've worked with it. Either I have a practice where I do kind of a card a day, where I will sit with my morning coffee and pull a card and kind of see what the energy is. I've used this deck to like co-create classes and things in the way of when I first got my sample deck for it. And I like sat, I had my first retreat that I taught in February, and I received my deck in like December. And I was like, I sat with it and then I was looking at kind of organizing the retreat. And I said, you know what? I'm going to collaborate with the deck on this. And as I broke down the days, because we had 3 days together, I would have a morning, activity, meditation, a ritual, and I would pull a card for the theme or what we would be working on. And that was really how I sat and like got to really even re-experience my deck after not, obviously you write, you create, you send it off, and then you don't see it for a while. And so you're kind of like, what happened?
What was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to it, it felt like, oh, like I can outline like the teaching and the lessons and the understanding of what rituals we're going to do based on the cards. Um, I have had I started a depth oracle training program this year where I'm teaching people how to connect to being the oracle as an archetype. And, you know, one of the assignments is like, for my students, their final practicum is to develop, like to share something with me as the depth, like as the oracle. And one of my students with this deck created a spread that was for a spell. Like it's kind of like, what is the spell? Like this is the spell, what I'm trying to bring in. What is the spell for? What is the offering? What do I need to, invite in to support me? She had all of these kind of ways of working with it. Um, I wish I could say I was really disciplined enough to always like sit down and like light some incense and a candle. But sometimes it doesn't look like that because there's chaos kind of in my home or, in my life. Like right now, my dog is having a meltdown behind me. Like, hopefully you can't hear her. She's like, she was scratching over there for a minute, but she wants to get up on the,
Oh, oh,
there she
yes.
is.
Oh, adorable. If you guys are listening to this, jump over to the YouTube channel. We've got a beautiful little puppy trying to jump up on the. So adorable.
She was asleep. She got all excited with the the card talk.
Yeah,
So
with the energy that we're throwing down. Yeah, please continue to talk a little bit more about the Depth Oracle
oh
apprenticeship
sure.
and yeah, and what that looks like because I think that you have another cycle opening up, like
Mhm.
registrationing opening up September 1st, and you guys can find that www.marcellakroll.com, follow on IG. And yeah, tell us a little bit about if somebody is interested in that.
Sure. So I was doing readings full time, like psychic tarot mediumship readings since 2009. And I over the last couple of years I've felt pulled to do like away from it in this way of like, and it also, feeling pushed by my guides and like nudge, like you need to be doing more teaching, really resisting it. And then finally I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so this year I pivoted to creating this depth oracle program, which is a 10-week program where we really build from the foundation up. And in that, how to be the oracle as an archetype. I'm so sorry. Let
You're
me
fine.
please. You can leave up there. All right.
I love it.
That's her. She needs to be high up. She's like, I
Queen.
need, yeah. So yeah, the Depth Oracle program just kind of, I really wanted to offer something that was very much a starting point for people who, whether or not you made this a profession, it doesn't, you don't have to be a professional reader or anything like that. It's not about card reading. It's about being and honoring the archetype of the oracle and the ways we support our own coming back to building intuitive trust and confidence. It's a 10-week program. We meet for 2 hours a week. Each week, there's a different kind of topic or modality. And then um, you also have like suggested homework. I never make it mandatory because don't want people to feel pressured by it and I want it to feel organic. But and then I have a guidebook that's like journal prompts for the week, like to help support you. But everything from, you know, learning how to read energy signatures to holding space without fixing is one week, you know, or boundaries and ethics. And then also, in the beginning, I like to talk about the history of oracles throughout history, like who, where, what, how is this a thing, throughout time and in many traditions. And then just so you have an understanding of like how deep this is rooted, in every continent, in every culture, and bringing it back to a place of really so more people can hold space in ways that feel for their communities. It's not just me with the one-on-one. It's like it's you taking that wisdom and putting your own application to it and being able to hold the space in the way that you need to. Now, I've had TV writers, I've had other readers, I've had animal communicators, artists, photographers, like not just like tarot readers. Like it's literally for anyone who's wanting to connect with this piece of themselves and do like feel more like aligned and confident with whatever they're offering, so getting a lot of that trust back. We even talk about, technology and being an oracle in the digital age and what that looks like. We talk about psychic self-defense, building a heart-led practice. Um, there's many things that we cover in the 10 weeks. So I've offered it as a one-to-one, but also as a group. We did the spring cohort this year, so I'll be opening up the fall cohort September 1st, and we'll start mid-October through the end of the year. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I I am so excited, and people can find out more again at your website,
Mhm.
marcellakroll.com. I love that because honoring the archetype of the oracle, it just kind of opens up a space within my mind of reverence, of, being a little different, holding space without being fixed. I mean, come
Mhm.
on. And I'm also, is it something that people can do in person or is it online or both or
Right now it's online. It's just online, yeah. So,
accessible? Yeah.
yeah. Like, and that was really cool to be able to bring people from all over. The last group we had like Mexico City, Berlin, US, like all different places, being able to come together and, um, you know, have that shared experience, that's felt really good to be able to, because we want community, right? A lot of people want community or they speak to community, but it's very hard, with the way the world is to have community right now. And people have kind of confused the word community with commerce or different things. And, it's like trying to get everyone to really understand what that is. So the beautiful thing about it, I've found, has been able to like when I see other people that like they've met through the class and they're still connected or like they're getting to kind of support, everyone's been really supportive of each other. And I think that's something I feel really good that like I've been able to draw people who are really like they're here in this way of really wanting to just not just like be a fixture, but they want to really connect and they want a better world,
Mm.
and they really act on it, on that.
We're
So,
all about community. Jenny C. Bell also has our Coven community online
oh, amazing.
and is a community builder as well. So, what else, Jenny? What else do we want I mean, I'm like all floaty. I'm like,
Yeah, we're
woohoo!
transcending
We're
today.
transcending today. Where are we
Yeah,
headed, Jenny?
well, I wanted to share that I first heard of Marcella through my friend Ashley Bodell. She has the podcast Big Crystal Energy, which is a favorite podcast of mine. And
Mhm.
she went to a retreat of yours. And it was, and we were speaking about initiates, right? And we're speaking about that. And she absolutely loved that. And so that was it transcends for her, right? Like it was very like a beautiful moment for her. So I'd like to hear a little bit about like you as a teacher. So you've done so much. So we're talking to someone that created this card deck, but you have other card decks and you have books, and now you're teaching people about that they are the oracle, right? And how to step into that energy. But you've also done so many other things. If you could just share a little bit about your background with people, I think that they'll be as blown away as we are.
Thank you. Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, that retreat was the retreat that I used the deck to outline. It was the Altar Within retreat, and it was in New Mexico, and really about being the offering, like being the offering, not just like this, and how to show up as the offering. Um there it's really interesting because I never thought I would be teaching, right? I always imagined like, first of all, I never imagined living past 18, honestly, to be honest. Like it was not on my radar to exist this long. And, you know, really magic and tarot and astrology and all those things really saved my physical life at 18. And moving out of like, it didn't like fix me. It definitely gave me a path forward though. And then, over the years, I made art. I've been very fortunate enough to be an artist and make art for a living. And I've worked in some interesting like artistic spaces and places. And um getting to into my work really started first as like, oh, I'm just gonna do this to like kind of like by word of mouth or by supplementing my income. But I worked at the LA Public Library. I worked at one of the branches as a messenger clerk for a little while. This was back in like 2007 and 2008, and more 2008. But the young adult librarian was like, I knew I read tarot cards and was like, would you ever want to teach this for like the teens? And I was like, I don't think they want that, you know? And she was like, no,
They
they
do.
do. Yeah, because it was like an Echo Park. I was like, these kids are gonna like, they're gonna rip me apart. They're not gonna care. She's like, no, no, just do it. So I did a presentation, and then it kind of just like at the same time, that was when I started, doing more word of mouth readings, like again, and then had been working another job, and I lost that job, and then the library was doing layoffs because they had to like, anyway, I was like, okay, but the program stayed. They put it in the system. And so I kept getting called to come teach like different branches. And then I started doing readings at a metaphysical bookstore. And then I went full time. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll try and teach that class here. And then it just kind of, I was like, okay, like, so classes started kind of evolving, or people would be like, you should teach this. And I would try it. And, anything from like intro to tarot, intro to oracle. And my own personal like world and healing started developing. And then I got into teaching past lives and then doing this. So it's just really been this thread of my own personal growth and healing, and then wanting to share that with others. Especially, then my own journey with finding my bio dad's family and that history, and teaching people how to work with themselves. And then during, lockdown and stuff, like teaching online, that kind of developed like through that time because we were home,
Right.
and people were like, oh, like I want to work with my youngest self, you know, and it just kept evolving. And I definitely avoided, you know, doing any kind of training program because I always am the student and I'm like, I'm not an expert. Who am I to like teach this? You know, I always feel this like imposter thing. I'm also, um, you know, I'm autistic. I have sometimes teaching, like there's pressure and things like, you know, there's lots of things I thought I couldn't do. Um, but it really stems from like this personal development, you know, and being like, well, if this has helped me, maybe it can help someone else. So that's been a lot of the evolution of it. And then even down to like making decks, you know, my first deck I made Sacred Symbols, the first edition. I made that in essentially 2012, but I printed it in 2013 and self-published, you know, after that, like multiple decks and zines, and then until things got started getting more into the publishing world. But like even the publishing world didn't want anything to do with what I was making. I tried. I tried. Even like I was like, they're like, no, it's not really, it's not really. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to just do this, you know, and trusting that even though that world was rejecting me, that didn't mean that the world didn't. I always said, I'll do this until the world doesn't want it anymore, you
If
know?
you are
And that's,
enjoying this show, you can support it by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Also, connect with us, leave a comment, text the show option wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review, or email us at beliefbeingbeyond@gmail.com. Also, I'm on Patreon, where a small donation goes a long way. Find this and more episodes at granddaughtercrow.com. Thank you. Now back to the show.
you know, and that's kind of what happened, like, particularly with Sacred Symbols. The money would just come. I would, you know, like, obviously, I went through a lot of trial and error with, like, you know, printing and redeveloping and putting out different versions of it. And, you know, now that came out in 2013. We're now what, 2026. I'm on the fourth edition and it is published by a publisher now, but it's like there's all because I just said, you know what, if it's not supposed to be here, it won't be, you
Yeah.
know. So I don't know, it's just been like this really wild evolution. I feel like as a teacher, um I like being like with the students. Like I don't ever like that hierarchy of like I know this and I know that. I'm always like, let's talk, let's have a chat. You know, even with my students, like when we're doing one-to-one, I would say I don't like teaching at anyone because
Right.
I'm always learning too. Like you're showing me something as much as maybe I'm just sharing this thing with you. Like, and I've had friends say, you know, like my goal is to just be like the weird auntie, you know, like
I love it.
right, and be like, let me just share this weird thing that I found, you know, like like, and maybe it helps. Maybe it helps someone else feel more like connected to themselves and they can put their unique magic out in the world. I never want anyone to kind of parrot or mimic or like think that my way is the way because I'm a human. I mess up all the time. I that is why there's four incarnations of sacred symbols, you know, because evolution. And I think
Evolution.
yeah, and I think that we should expect that of our teachers as well, you know.
I love that. So I have a question for you based on the evolution and the iterations and everything.
Mhm.
What is something you've changed your mind about in the last 5 years, and
Mhm.
what caused that change?
Mm. That I had to be loud to be heard, I think. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, actually, especially in like the world and the times we live in, because I have been reflecting a lot on the last 10 years, especially. Um, because this September I'll have 10 years sober, and my life was very different. Thank you. 10 years ago, I, you know, even like just prior to being sober, I was very loud. online as very much vocal, like activists doing my like doing things, putting together fundraisers, doing all the things, but very much like vocal and loud all over the internet. And that has shifted for me a lot.
Wow.
Um, Not because I don't care, because some people will mistake it as you're not doing this anymore, so you're complicit or you're this. But what I've learned is that something for me is I've had to really do a lot of stuff without eyes on it. And not just because of the physical safety, because that was one of the things that people don't understand, like the death threats that I received, the
Wow.
people showing up, people don't, they'd be like, oh, I don't, oh, really? Did they really do that? And I'm like, you want to see this DM of this person's photo of my street? They don't know where I live, but they certainly are trying to find me. Like, that's a lot of things that I've had to like kind of really renegotiate in a way that like I didn't understand the value of also being a little more incognito with certain things or not being so loud. And there are going to be people that misunderstand you or don't want you to change, or they're going to make assumptions, and you have to kind of just you it was too painful it's been too painful trying to explain myself. Um, but then I look at also like my, my own lineages and history and look at like what my relatives went through. Like, as I started to know my bio dad's family and where they come from and the things that they had to go through. And it was dangerous to be loud, you
Mm.
know, but it didn't mean they weren't doing anything, So I think there's there is also I'm like I'm glad there are people that are loud and out there and doing their thing. But I think as you change and as you grow or even age, it's not appropriate for me at this time in my life. It's not the best use of my energy, and it's actually a liability,
Mm.
right? So I think, yeah, there's just this shift in this thing for me, especially with the 10-year span
I
of
love
time.
that.
So,
You're speaking such a wonderful message that I can also relate to this understanding of how did you put it? You don't have to be loud in order to be heard.
mhm.
You don't have to be loud in order to be heard, people. But if you're loud like me sometimes I'm just loud, but
Yeah.
you don't have to do that in order to be heard. A lot of times in the silence is where you actually hear your own voice, and then what you say is actually very, very authentic. I think that that's a wonderful message in our transcendence podcast that we're doing. And it's liberation, my dear. You're liberating a lot of the people who are out there thinking, well, maybe I got to be louder, faster, stronger, da 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 da. And you're giving them like not necessarily,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Well, I think it's like a matter of like, also too, like you thwart your own growth sometimes by telling everyone what you're up to. Um,
Yes.
or it's not even that. It's like sometimes you just need time to process it. It's interesting. I used to think I was like a fast processor because I would get things done. And I was like, no, you're just like, you have a lot of trauma, a lot of CPTSD. So you're just getting shit done. Like you're not actually processing. You're right. You're like, you're just doing the thing to get it out of the way. But for me, it takes me a long time. Like when I'm really thinking about it, because then I'm like, why? Like years later, I'm only now getting to this, right? I thought I was over it. No, you just got louder than the thing, thinking it would drown it out or make it go away, avoiding your own stuff, right? Because I can go help. I can go do this, right? And it's like, no, you're just creating more wreckage. And also like there are other people who are better at this than you are. Like, because I
Yeah.
like there's like it was not a um I think that it takes a lot of self-reflection, and you, even though I'm not the best at having self-compassion, but like I'm not, again, like I said, I don't like this in this life, I don't want to be a liability any more than I have been for people who need support or things like that. And I want people to learn how to not be spun out in their rage, that they don't hear what they need to hear, or they're distracted.
Distracted.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and some people, and again, there is a time and a place for it, and there is sacred rage, and there is like a fire, and there are things that, yes, you should be
Yes.
fighting for, and you should be loud and bold about. I'm not saying hide yourself. I'm just saying knowing when it becomes an asset, and also not disconnecting from yourself because you're so inflamed.
I love that because it is a cycle. And
Mhm.
sometimes we are supposed to wake up and do this, and then other times we need to rest. And if you guys don't know where you're at in the cycle, pick up the Oracle deck and then pull one
Yes.
and see where you are in your own cycle of growth because the beauty, yes, the beauty is, I know I got this little one.
Oh, nice.
I don't even know what it says because I'm backwards.
Prosperous.
Oh, well, I'll take it. But the beauty is that I think that it's also about honoring the cycle and the seasons when it's time to do this, do that, and don't just keep going, going, going.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is time to slow down. And I really feel that, I'm a Cancer sun with a Leo moon, right? And so I want to do everything really big. And yet I need to hide afterwards, And so I do need that time of processing. And you spoke straight to my soul because I'm like, oh, I can get things done. I get it. Just show me an overview. I'll just get it. And now I'm like, but in this time in my life, in this point in my life, I'm like, if I take a minute, if I take a beat, if I take a pause,
Mhm.
so much more of this lotus opens and reveals itself. So much more of the initiation, my new initiation,
Mhm.
is unfolding itself. So, Jenny, it looks like we're getting close to our time. What else do we have?
Well, we have our final question,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
kind of a initiation question when you really kind of think about it. Yeah, so we are belief being and beyond, and so we always like to ask our guests what you think lies beyond.
I'm like, beyond what? Like,
It's
Exactly. Up to
open-ended.
you.
Yep,
ooh,
It's up
open-ended.
to you. It's up to you.
what lies beyond? I mean, whew. I'm like, this is like an existential,
Yes.
yeah.
Is. It is.
Because I'm like, beyond what? Beyond what? I'm like, um, oof. I think what lies beyond is whatever you think is waiting for you. Honestly, I mean, in some ways, some people ask me like, oh, do you believe in, like like life after death, reincarnation, things like that. I immediately go to like the macabre, right? Like the life after death stuff of, you know, and I think that there's like it's whatever you believe is going to happen. I'm at this juncture of my life that I really don't want to reincarnate. I want to just like be in a celestial like orb in the sky, like in the
Feel you. I
I'm
feel
like, can
you.
we be done? Um, I
Yes.
just want to float around, like, and not in a ghost haunty way. I just want to be like out in the galactic kind of sphere of things. But if I could say like anything about just that, there's a spark of hope that keeps coming up for me, that like I have this spark of hope that there's always something to look forward to. And even in the beyond, there is that. Um, yeah, oh wow, this one really stumps me. And this one's really stumping me in that way, you know? I'm
I
like,
love it.
because I'm like beyond, beyond. Yes, of course, there's other things out there that are not human. Yes, the beyond, like in the galactic. Yes, there's like different ways of life after death. Gosh, infinite, infinite. And I think if anything, it can be anything we want it to be. And that's the beauty of it, of the idea of what's beyond the beyond. Yeah.
I I love that because like from this point of view, I'm just watching you process and I'm like, are we getting another book out of this? Is there another deck coming our way called The Beyond? I absolutely love
I'm gonna
it.
be sitting with this for a while.
Oh yeah.
Like that's gonna like earworm for a while.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that that's why this show, right? And
Mm,
that's why this understanding, I mean, it's almost for me, it's just this concept of there is more.
mm.
I mean, and so then beyond what? Beyond this moment, there is another moment, that beyond our life. What do you got there, Jenny?
I was just showing the as above, so below card. Because there's
Oh,
so much beyond in the card deck. Like there's so much like beyond our mundane,
Right.
basically.
Well, it's like that. There's that tarot deck that's like it's some tarot deck that's based on the Rider Waite, but it's like what happens after the first image. Have you seen this? It's
I
like
haven't
No.
seen that.
it would be like, the Five of Cups, but then it's like it's supposed to be the next scene, you know.
Interesting.
So like there's like a deck. It's kind of like that, and I think of that too with this deck. It's like there's more than just like the image that you're seeing. Like there's other things that can kind of come. Like what's next? What's the next chapter? You know.
Oh, I love it. You guys, we're sitting down tonight with Marcella Kroll and all of the wonder, the liminal space, the beautiful card deck, as well as make sure you check out marcellakroll.com. Is there any last message that you would like to leave the listeners with? It doesn't need to be profound, but I don't think you can be anything else but profoundly beautiful and authentic. And I appreciate that about you.
I just thank you so much for having me. Thank you both for the space that you create in your practices and sharing that, with others and your community. I think the only thing I'll say is, especially with the fiery nature of the summer months, is just keep breathing deeply, keep your cool, and remember to like stay grounded in your center. I think one of the biggest things we could all really benefit from is pausing of between our reaction and our response. I think that's the only thing I could really impart out there. Pausing between the reaction and the response.
I love that. There's so many jewels in here. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Belief Being and Beyond. Make sure you follow Marcella Kroll, pick up this amazing deck and learn ritual. Also, check out the website because it's opening up the Depth Oracle Apprentice and honoring the archetype of the Oracle. Thank you guys. Like, subscribe, share this. Let's grow, get the algorithm so that this show and this information can get to the people that desire it the most. I love you guys, and we'll see you on the flippity flip. Thank you for listening to another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. Please subscribe and share with whomever would enjoy this podcast. And please leave us a review. We really, really appreciate that. For more about Granddaughter Kroll, granddaughterkroll.com. There you can learn about her classes, sessions, and all of her books. And for more about Ginny C. Bell, please visit ginnycbell.com, where you can learn about her books, her classes, and Our Coven community. Thank you so much for listening.